200 years ago, if Britain decided you were beyond redemption, they sent you to the edge of the world to disappear forever. This was Tasmania, the prison island that shouldn't exist. Too remote, too harsh, too isolated from everything that makes civilization possible. And yet today, 200,000 people visit every year, not because they have to, but because they're choosing to escape here. What was once the ultimate punishment has become paradise. But here's what nobody tells you about this transformation. It's not just the landscape that changed. It's what that landscape reveals about the human need for freedom and the paradox of finding it in the exact place prisoners searched for it and failed. From the cliffs where convicts planned impossible escapes, to the wilderness where modern escapists find exactly what they're looking for, this is the story of how isolation became the ultimate sanctuary. By the end of this video, you'll know exactly when to go, what it costs, and how to make this escape without making the mistakes that cost others thousands. This is how you find your freedom in the place designed to destroy it. To understand how the most feared prison on Earth became a travel destination, you need to know what this place actually was. Not the sanitized version from history books. The truth. Port Arthur, 1833. 15,000 kilometers from Britain, surrounded by the Southern Ocean on one side and shark-infested waters on the other. This wasn't just a prison, it was designed to break the human spirit. Jeremy Bentham's panopticon concept, a prison where guards could watch every cell from a single point, perfected. Prisoners watched from every angle, never knowing when they were being observed. 1,646 men crammed into a facility built for half that number. The isolation alone was the punishment. And escape? Every prisoner dreamed of it. Every prisoner planned it. But here's what made Tasmania different. The island itself was the cell. That narrow strip of land connecting the Tasmanian peninsula to the mainland. Eagle Hawk Neck, barely 30 meters wide. Guard dogs chained across it. And beyond that, waters cold enough to kill in minutes, patrolled by sharks that had learned prisoners meant food. In 1842, Martin Cash and 2 others made it past the dogs. They swam through ice water, hid in forests for months, survived on whatever they could hunt. The only successful escape in Port Arthur's 40-year history.
Harsh.
Think about that. Thousands tried. 3 succeeded. The ocean was a more effective prison than any wall. Today, Port Arthur gets 250,000 visitors a year. But back then, it was hell on earth. But then something changed. 1877. The prison closed. not because of reform, not because of compassion, simply because transportation to Australia ended and Tasmania's experiment in human suffering was no longer needed. Nature didn't waste time. Moss crept up the stone walls. Trees pushed through the chapel roof. The Southern Ocean continued its patient work, reshaping the cliffs that had trapped so many. And slowly, impossibly, something new began to grow. The descendants of those who'd staffed the prison started telling stories. Dark tourism emerged. By the 1970s, people were visiting to understand the brutality. By the 90s, UNESCO recognized it as a World Heritage Site. Not celebrating the prison, but preserving the lesson. And somewhere in that transformation, the narrative shifted. The same isolation that made it hell became its greatest asset. The wilderness that trapped prisoners became what draws people today. The remoteness that ensured suffering now promises escape from modern life's noise. I came here thinking I'd stay 6 months. That was 15 years ago. Something about this place, it changes you. That's Sarah. You'll meet her properly in a moment. She left a 6-figure law career in Sydney to paint wildlife in Tasmania. She's not alone. Thousands have made the same choice, seeking what those prisoners sought and never found: genuine freedom. The prison walls have crumbled. But what replaced them? That's what I'm going to show you. Starting with the beaches where prisoners once planned impossible escapes, and where today you might just plan your own. The prisoners who stared at those walls never saw what's waiting just beyond them. After 90 minutes climbing through coastal heath, your legs burning, lungs working hard in the salt air, you reach the lookout. And then everything you thought you knew about beaches changes. Wineglass Bay. Consistently ranked among the world's top 10 beaches. That perfect crescent of white sand against water so turquoise it looks artificial. The kind of beautiful that makes you question whether you're wasting your life behind a desk. But here's what they don't tell you in the tourism brochures. That name isn't romantic. In the 1820s, this bay ran red with whale blood for months every year. Whalers worked these shores, and when they were done, the water looked exactly like wine in a glass. Dark, thick, deadly. Stand here now, though, and the only red you'll see is the sunset. Nature had the final word. The whaling stations crumbled. The blood washed away. And what's left is something that draws people from every corner of the earth, searching for exactly what those prisoners searched for and never found. But Let me introduce you to someone who found it. Sarah left a $200,000 a year law career in Sydney. She hasn't looked back. I came here for a weekend, she tells me, standing in her coastal studio surrounded by paintings of wildlife most people will never see. Stood on that lookout over Wineglass Bay. And I just couldn't leave. Something shifted inside me. Like I'd been sleepwalking for 15 years and suddenly woke up. Everyone thought she was insane. Her family, her firm, partners who'd invested years training her. "You're throwing your life away," they said. "You'll regret this." She packed anyway. The first year was brutal. No income. Savings evaporating faster than she'd planned. Living in what she generously calls a shed, teaching herself to paint, wondering at 3 a.m. if she'd made the biggest mistake of her life. Those doubts, they were loud. But then something happened, Sarah continues, and her whole face changes. I started selling pieces. Not much at first, but enough. More importantly, I started breathing again. I didn't even realize I'd been holding my breath for 15 years in that office. Every morning I'd wake up with my chest tight, this low-level anxiety that I thought was just normal. It wasn't normal. It was slow suffocation. She pauses, looking out toward the water visible from her window. Now, I wake up to kookaburras. I paint what I see outside my door. I make less money, sure. But I've never been happier. Best decision I ever made. That's the thing about Tasmania. It offers something you can't buy, can't manufacture, can't fake. Sarah found it in art. Others find it in different ways. But they're all searching for the same thing those prisoners desperately wanted: genuine freedom. From Sarah's studio, we travel inland. Tasmania's wildlife tells another story of survival and transformation. Wombats rule this land. In some regions, they outnumber people 3 to 1. These compact powerhouses dig elaborate burrow systems, emerging at dusk to graze. And yes, they produce cube-shaped droppings. No one's entirely sure why, but it likely helps mark territory on uneven surfaces. Nature's geometric precision at work. Wallabies hop through the understory. Tasmanian pademelons, smaller cousins to kangaroos, freeze when they sense movement. And then there's the Tasmanian devil. Once hunted to the brink of extinction, now protected. Their bone-crushing jaws can exert pressure that would make a hyena jealous. That distinctive shriek? It's not aggression. It's how they communicate. But we'll come back to the devils later. Because Tasmania's transformation isn't just about nature reclaiming land or people finding peace. But here's what Sarah never told me in that interview until I asked her what really convinced her to stay. Not the landscapes. Not the wildlife. Something you can taste. And once you taste it, you understand why no one who escapes here ever wants to leave. Picture this. It's 6 a.m. at Hobart's Salamanca Market. The smell of wood-fired sourdough mixing with salt air. Sarah's here every Saturday, not just for supplies, but because this is where she realised Tasmania wasn't just beautiful to look at. It was a place you could taste. Every Saturday morning, Hobart's waterfront transforms. Salamanca Market. 300 stalls. Local producers who grow, catch, or make everything they sell. This isn't tourist theatre. This is how Tasmania eats. The oysters come from Bruny Island, harvested that morning. Cold water oysters. The farmer who shucks them has hands like leather and can tell you the exact reef where each one grew. Pop one in your mouth, and it's not just seafood. It's the Southern Ocean. Salt. Minerals. The taste of water so clean it's almost sweet. Move down the road. Tasmanian salmon. Wild caught in waters so cold the fish develop fat content that rivals any salmon on Earth. The vendor doesn't need to sell it. She just cuts a piece, hands it over, watches your face. That's all the marketing required.
Go ahead and try it. Tell me what you think.
But it's the cheese that stops people. King Island Dairy. The island sits in the Bass Strait, where rain falls sideways and grass grows rich from maritime climate. The cows graze year-round. The cheese, particularly the blue, has won more international awards than most countries produce cheese. Creamy, complex. The kind that makes you rethink everything you thought you knew about dairy. Wine? Tasmania punches above its weight. Literally. The island produces less than 1% of Australia's wine, but wins a disproportionate share of international awards. Cool climate viticulture. Pinot Noir that rivals Burgundy. Sparkling wine so good the French take notice. The secret? Latitude. Tasmania sits at 42 degrees south, the same latitude as Burgundy sits north. Same climate. Same magic. Visit Stillwater Restaurant in Launceston. They don't import ingredients because they don't need to. Everything within 100 kilometers is world class. The menu changes based on what fishermen caught, what farmers harvested, what foragers found. This isn't farm-to-table marketing speak. This is Tasmania's rhythm, expressed through cuisine that tells you exactly where you are. The Japanese have a concept, terroir, the taste of place. Tasmania has it in concentration, rarely found elsewhere. The island's isolation created it. The pristine environment maintains it. And every meal becomes an argument for staying. This is what Sarah meant. This is why she stayed. When you can taste the wilderness, when the ocean is in every oyster, when the land speaks through every meal, that's when Tasmania stops being a place you visit and becomes a place you can't leave. The food is proof. Tasmania's transformation isn't philosophical. It's tangible. Delicious. Undeniable. From the coast, we climb. Cradle Mountain. The highlands, where Tasmania shows you what wilderness actually means. At 1,545 meters, Cradle Mountain isn't Tasmania's highest peak, but it might be its most sacred. Jagged dolerite columns pierce clouds that form, dissolve, and reform within minutes. The plateau stretches beyond sight, buttongrass moorland, glacial lakes, ancient forests untouched by logging. UNESCO World Heritage listed. Protected. Wild. 5:30 a.m. Dove Lake. The water sits perfectly still, reflecting the mountain peak so precisely that you can't distinguish earth from sky. Then wind ripples the surface and reality returns. This is where James had his moment. He's not who you'd expect to find here. Tech executive. Silicon Valley. $300,000 a year. Corner office with a view he never looked at because he was too busy staring at screens. 20 years building someone else's vision. Good at it. Successful by every metric that matters. Dying inside. I'd wake up and my first thought was checking email, he tells me, and there's no drama in his voice. Just fact. Before coffee, before seeing my wife, before anything resembling a human morning, I'd been holding my breath for so long I forgot what breathing felt like. His company sent him to Australia for a conference. He added 3 days. Tasmania. Cradle Mountain. A solo hike because he didn't know how to be around people anymore. I got to Dove Lake at dawn, he continues. And for the first time in 20 years, I took a real breath. Not the shallow chest breathing you do in meetings. Deep from the diaphragm. And I started crying. Not sad crying. Relief crying. Because I realized I'd been drowning and I'd just broken the surface. He sold everything. The house, the car, most of his possessions. Moved into a cabin near Cradle Mountain with no Wi-Fi, no cell signal, nothing but books and hiking gear. Started guiding part-time while he learned the wilderness properly. First year, he made $28,000. A 90% pay cut. I've never been happier, he says, and looking at him, you believe it. There's something different in his eyes. Clarity that's hard to fake. Here's what I figured out, he continues. I thought I was escaping to Tasmania. But really, I was escaping to myself. Tasmania just gave me permission. This place strips everything away, all the noise, all the expectations, all the things you think define you. And what's left? That's who you actually are. It's the most honest thing anyone said to me this entire trip. But there's a tension in what James does now. He helps others discover what he found. 20, 30 people a week he takes into this wilderness. Shows them the beauty, teaches them the silence. And every person who falls in love with this place is another person who might love it to death. 30% of Tasmania is protected wilderness. The most comprehensive conservation system in Australia. But as more people escape here, and population's grown 8% in 5 years, how do you protect paradise from becoming the next overloved, Instagram-ruined destination? A park ranger I spoke to put it simply, we need people to fall in love with this place. Because only then will they fight to protect it. But they have to love it responsibly. Remember those Tasmanian devils we met earlier? The ones with bone-crushing jaws and that haunting shriek? They're the living proof this conservation approach works. 20 years ago, they were disappearing facial tumor disease, wiping out 80% of the population. Today, numbers are stabilizing. Not because Tasmania locked people out, but because people like James taught visitors to be protectors, not just tourists. That's the deal Tasmania makes with you. I'll show you paradise, but you have to help keep it that way. James embodies that paradox. Watch him on the trail. He picks up a litter other hikers missed. Points out the damage from walking off path. Teachers leave no trace principles like their sacred rules, which here they are. You can't keep Tasmania secret, he says. That ship sailed. But you can keep it sacred. That's the challenge. That's what I'm trying to do every time I bring people here. The paradox of paradise. The more people who discover it, the more threatened it becomes. Unless those people become its protectors. Unless escape becomes responsibility. Unless tourism becomes stewardship. Standing here in absolute wilderness, watching James prepare for his next group, I understand what Sarah and James and all the others found. It's not escape from something. It's escape to something. To clarity. To purpose. To the person you forgot you were capable of being. And if you're feeling that pull right now, that same call those prisoners felt but couldn't answer, then you're ready for what comes next. Because I'm about to show you exactly how to make this escape yourself. Responsibly. Properly. The right way. All right? You're convinced. Sarah found her freedom. James found himself. Now here's exactly how you make it happen. First question everyone asks, when should I go? Best time is autumn. March through May. You get the weather 12 to 20 degrees Celsius, comfortable for hiking, the fall colors are spectacular, and you're dealing with half the crowds you'd face in summer. Summer, December to February, warmest weather but most expensive and most crowded. Winter gives you snow on the highlands and the cheapest prices, but it's cold and some trails close. Spring is wildflowers and active wildlife, but the weather's unpredictable. For your first visit, autumn. Hands down. Budget. This is where most people hesitate, thinking Tasmania is going to break the bank. It doesn't have to. Budget-conscious traveller? $1,500 covers 7 days. Hostels and camping for accommodation, cook most meals, stick to free hikes and beaches. Still incredible. Mid-range comfort, and this is what I'd recommend, $2,500. Gets you decent bed and breakfasts, restaurants for dinner, rental car that won't break down, paid activities worth doing. You want luxury? $6,000 and up. Private lodges, helicopter tours, fine dining every night, four-wheel drive for remote areas. All three budgets give you Tasmania. Just different versions of it. Car rental is essential. Tasmania's made for road trips. Public transport exists, but it's limited. You need wheels to reach the places that matter. 7 days is minimum, but here's how you'd spend them. Days 1 and 2, Hobart. Arrive, adjust, hit Salamanca Market on Saturday morning, absolute must do. Mona Museum if you're into contemporary art. It's world class and weird in the best way. Drive up Mount Wellington for the view. 2 days gives you the city without rushing. Day 3, Freycinet Peninsula. 3-hour drive up the east coast. Wineglass Bay hike is non-negotiable, that 90-minute climb you heard about earlier. Worth every step. Stay somewhere coastal that night. Wake up to ocean sounds. Days 4 and 5, Cradle Mountain. This is your Highlands experience. Dove Lake Circuit takes 6 hours if you do it properly. Don't rush it. This is where James had his moment. You might have yours. 2 days, because the drive-in takes time and you'll want a full day for the trails. Day 6, if you have it, West Coast. Gordon River cruise out of Strahan. Different Tasmania, entirely rainforest, rivers, isolation. But if you're tight on time, skip this and spend the extra day in Cradle Mountain. Day 7, back to Hobart. Explore Battery Point, the historic neighbourhood you missed on day 1. Prep for departure. Already planning your return. Pro tips that'll save you headaches. Book accommodation 3 to 6 months ahead for autumn. I'm serious. The good places fill fast. Download offline maps, cell coverage disappears in the wilderness. Pack layers. Tasmania's weather is legitimately bipolar. You'll experience 4 seasons in 1 day. Respect the wildlife. These aren't zoo animals. Keep your distance. And expect rain. Always. It's not pessimism, it's Tasmania. All the resources you need: official tourism site, national park passes, tested accommodation, recommendations, they're in the description. Everything compiled so you don't waste hours researching what I've already figured out. That's it. You now know when to go, what it costs, where to stay, what to see, and how to do it right. Everything you need. The rest? That's up to you. You've seen the paradise prisoners built from brutality. You've met the people who left everything behind to escape here and discovered they weren't running from their lives, they were running toward them. And now you know exactly how to follow them. When to go. What it costs. Where the transformation happens. 200 years ago, prisoners searched for escape from Tasmania and failed. Today, people search for escape to Tasmania and find themselves. That's not poetic exaggeration. That's what Sarah discovered standing over Wineglass Bay. What James realized at 5:30 in the morning on Dove Lake. What thousands are discovering every year in the exact place designed to break the human spirit. If Tasmania is calling you, if that pull is real, drop a comment below. Tell me your escape story, or the one you're planning. I want to hear it. Next, we're going somewhere even more extreme, where an entire country exists on the world's most active volcanic belt, where islands appear and disappear within a single lifetime, and where civilization learned to thrive on borrowed time. Click here to discover how Indonesia turned catastrophe into culture,